the Honorable Charles Ramson Jr.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. It's a very great pleasure to use my voice here to support the largest budget in this country's history, and more importantly, a budget that does not include any taxes, any new taxes. And I have to say, with this new measure of $100,000 for every new child, I was particularly interested in that. I think that particular measure will make Guyanese, let's say, a lot more productive. That's right. That's right. And I listened to the honorable member, and I like Ms. 𝐁𝐔𝐃𝐆𝐄 best. But with all of the caterwauling that just happened just a few minutes ago, one would forget that it was they who disbanded the Ministry of Culture, Youth and Sport. And I want to welcome all of the students who are here. All of the lofty ideals and the glowing words about young people, their first act when they came into power was to get rid of the Ministry of Culture, Youth and Sport. That's right. And I've been listening very carefully over the last few minutes. And I want to pause on this particular point too that she mentioned. She might be the only person in Guyana and probably in this world that extols the amazing beauty and location or locality of Durban Park. I was driving with someone, came to the country for the first time, and while I was showing him around, he had the opportunity to pass on home stretch. And when he saw Durban Park, you know what he said to me? He asked me, "Oh my gosh, was there a fire here?" That is an eyesore. That is an eyesore and an example of the record that they have for the APNU AFC government. And when I've heard all of what the members of the opposition have said over the last few days, and I hear the purported paragons of virtue and rectitude, I want to ask myself, I can't help but asking myself, are these the people who spent $1.4 billion on Durban Park and $600 million cannot be accounted for? Are these the people who sold a wharf that was valued at 8 billion Guyana dollars, a government wharf? They sold it for $100 million. Only collected $20 million and transferred the property, robbing Guyana of billions of dollars. Are these the same people who sourced a bottom house for drugs for $12.5 million a month in rent, costing Guyana $340 million? Are these the same people? Are these the same people who spent $1 billion on SARA, the State Asset Recovery Agency, and never recovered one asset? Are these the same people who spent $72 million on scales, sole sourced it to their political advisor from Jamaica, and the scales were never delivered? Are these the same people who transferred $90 million into their personal bank account? Personal bank account in 3 months. Are these the same people who gave themselves contracts in Video Mega? Are these the same people who passed the Liberalization for the Telecoms Act in 2016, but never brought it into force until the People's Progressive Party came to power in 2021? Are these the same people who gave themselves 50% salary increase and who have an affinity for bangles, bracelets, bed sheets, barber chairs, pig farms? Are these the same people who fired 7,000 sugar workers and 2,000 CSO workers? Are these the same people who transferred 200 acres of land to the chief elections officer, who is charged for rigging the election in 2020? Are these the same people who gave the returning officer for Region 4 his land the very next day after he applied for it? Are these the same people, these purported paragons of virtue and rectitude, are these people the same people who attempted to rig the 2020 election and that caused Mike Pompeo in the United States of America, in Washington, to say at his press briefing, he said at the press briefing that he was announcing visa restrictions on individuals responsible for or complicit in undermining democracy in Guyana. The Granger government must respect the results of democratic elections and step aside. Mike Pompeo, the Secretary of State for the United States of America. And the best that I've ever seen, and it happened in this very house in 2020, is when on the penultimate day of the recount and the ultimate day of the recount, right here in this very house, downstairs by the foyer, you had the same people who gathered around in a circle and held hands and prayed that the recount would show that the APNU AFC won the election. And I have the picture here to prove it. These are the same people. These people are delulu. God wouldn't help you to rig the election, and even 7 pawns, the spirits at 7 pawns, wouldn't help them either. And I want to deal with this friends, family, and favorites. It's friends and family. The 215,000 children who will be benefiting from their $50,000 per child, they and their parents are our friends and family. The 300,000 who will be receiving the $100,000 cash grant, and again this year, they are our friends and family. The 80,000 pensioners who moved their pension from $20,500 to $41,000, they are our friends and family. The 60,000 persons who gained jobs in the last 4 years, they are our friends and family. The 30,000 Guyanese who are studying free on the Gold Scholarship, they are our friends and family. The 15,000 pathway workers They are our friends and family. The 12,000 Guyanese who received their vocational training for free under BIT, they are our friends and family. The 41,000 who received subsidized house lots, highly subsidized house lots, $300,000 they're paying for a house lot that is worth $5 million government invested. They are our friends and family. The hundreds of thousands of people who will be benefiting from the roads, the bridges, the hospitals, the schools, the community grounds, all of them, they are our friends and family. The hundreds of thousands of people who are going to be using the Demerara Harbor Bridge, they are our friends and family. The sugar workers, the farmers, all of the miners, they are our friends and family. The tens of thousands of people who took out mortgages, $164 billion in mortgages in the last 4 years alone, they are our friends and family. The hundreds of thousands of people who now get access, they now get access to cheaper internet because we remove VAT and liberalize the economy. They are our friends and family. The 248 Amerindian villages that received the $10 billion from the world-class LCDS money from our sale of our carbon credit, they are our friends and family. The 8,000 discipline services, members of the discipline services who had their 1 month tax-free salary restored that APNU took away from them, they are our friends and family. Mr. Speaker, I could keep going on. This is the one Guyana family that President Ali and the People's Progressive Party is building. And so when we say we will win the next election, it's based on those numbers. It's simple math. I know they have difficulties with math on that side. Simple math. And so when we hear about the criticism of this budget and this government, and without first listing the stellar achievements, it reminds me of the Yiddish saying, to a worm in horseradish, the world is horseradish. Don't stifle your conscience. Don't stifle your conscience. These policies, programs, and projects have benefited all Guyanese. And when I hear the honorable member, Mr. Black Belly Sheep, on the other side, honorable member Ganesh, when I hear him say, bring back Rohi and bring back Frank, it is not by a mistake that he's not saying, bring back Ramjatan and bring back Norton and bring back Pagwali. And I want to turn to the opposition, because I've been carefully assessing this opposition over the last 4 years. And I can safely say that if there are 3 things that Guyanese can agree on, and the first is our 83,000 square miles territory, the second is our love for cricket, and the third is that this opposition is a complete waste of time. The fact is that this opposition could have done so much more. They wasted 4 years. Many of them don't even attend Parliament regularly. They don't come on time. They don't make presentations. And when they attend, they leave early. They don't go through their work and ask questions.
Mr. Speaker.
They don't even vote.
Honorable Minister, I have the honorable member, Mr. Mahipal, on his feet.
Sir, there is a hybrid system in Parliament, the virtual and physical, and majority of our members, when they are
Honorable member, Mr. Mahipal, a good try, but if you had presented me a record of the attendance and used that analysis to say that what he is saying doesn't reflect the reality. Go ahead, Honorable Minister.
Many of them don't attend Parliament. Many of them don't come on time. Many of them, when they come, they have lunch and they leave early. They don't do their presentations. They don't prepare and ask questions. These are facts. So when you want to come and present budgets here, anybody can come and read a speech. But it is time. Time is the true answer of the truth. Time is where the facts lie. So, and now they will start to go out into communities. They don't do even community work. They're in opposition, they don't even do community work. They'll go and do community work now. But I want them to know, what rain can't fall, Jew can't fall. They wanted us, this opposition wanted to prevent us from spending oil money. And their brilliant and genius idea was to steal this maize. Brilliant and genius idea was to steal this maize.
Honorable Minister, I will correct you. Attempt to.
Attempt to steal this maize. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And one of the members was inside this house and he was getting quarterback and choreography ideas from a member who was outside. A man who hadn't taken his seat yet in Parliament. How are you? And then even after we had that attempt to steal the maize, and we held a hearing and we suspended them, you know what they did? They went to go to court to overturn their suspension. That is what they did, and they lost. How are these people going to tell people don't commit crime? How are they going to tell people don't commit crime? So, and the one definition of an abdication of their responsibility was when we had the local content bill presented in this house by the People's Progressive Party, which we committed to in opposition as part of our manifesto promise. You know what they did? You know what they did when it was presented? They argued against it. They voted against this. This is a bill that would give and now act that would have given and now gives Guyanese people more employment in the oil industry, more opportunities for work, more opportunities to get procurement of goods and services. They voted against it. And just like when they were in government, they cannot be united now in opposition. Their big focus now is whether there will be a coalition or not. Who will be the presidential candidate? Their focus is not on people, it is on themselves. And no one was shocked when it was revealed on Friday that 22 out of the 32 members of the opposition hustled to get house lots for themselves. Ask them how many they got for ordinary people. And by their own admission, they said that their coalition is on life support. Well, let me just tell you, post-mortem don't bring back dead. Post-mortem don't bring back dead. And I want to take a few minutes to speak about the oil economy. So in December, we started producing, in 2019, we started to produce oil. And yes, we have more oil reserves than any other country in the world, but what matters is production. We are currently producing 650,000 barrels a day. But in order to be in the big leagues, we're not even a top 25 producer. America currently produces 22 million barrels of oil. Russia produces 10 million barrels of oil per day. Saudi Arabia, 11 million barrels a day. We are at 650,000 barrels a day. We have to rapidly get up our production, so otherwise we are not in the big leagues. So what I want us to focus on too is our debt. When we hear members of the other side speak about our debt, and we've spoken ad nauseum about the ratios, our ratio being the lowest in this hemisphere. The first question that you have to ask, really, because I don't want to get into too much equations and analysis of that. This is how you should answer it. They wouldn't understand. Minister Frank is right. They wouldn't understand. The first question that you have to ask is, are the schools, the roads, the bridges, the ports, the water wells, the community grounds, the gas to power project, are they needed? The answer is yes. The second question is, would it have been built had it not been for government expenditure? The answer is no, because otherwise the market would have done it already. The third question is, if we have to make the decision to build it at some point, and we had the money to do it, or we had access to do it, if the answer is yes, why are we waiting to do it? We must do it now. And if there's any time to take on debt, now is the time. Because even when oil prices decline, and they will decline at some point in the future, the fact is you have more projects coming on stream by 2030, at least 4 more. And it means that the increased level of production will offset the risk in the decline in oil prices. And I want you to understand that, and this is what the parochial thinkers on the other side don't understand, is that we are competing with other countries. Countries like the United States, on their airport alone, they are making a renovation investment of 18 billion US. And that's why it's important for us to double down now and make our infrastructure more improved and modernized so that we can build for the future. Other countries are getting it, but they are not. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to speak more about the Ministry of Culture, Youth and Sport. And I'd like to take the opportunity to welcome my brother, Suresh Singh, the Director of Youth. Another hard-working young person that the People's Progressive Party has promoted. And I also want to say that I explained how this APNU AFC abandoned and betrayed young people by disbanding the Ministry of Culture Youth when they came in. But I also want to show the world, the Guyana and Guyanese, especially young Guyanese, how the APNU AFC, they haven't changed. They haven't changed. They had 3 opportunities to replace an MP in the last 4 years. They had Joe Harmon, who vacated. You had Nicolette Henry, who vacated. And you also had recently Raphael Trotman, who vacated. In all 3 instances, they replaced those persons with old persons. Persons who are in their 60s and 70s. Not a single young person was chosen in the 3. The first time that we had an opportunity to replace another competent MP, Siraj, we chose a young person. And I also want to say that it is no different as what happened in their internal elections. Both APNU and AFC, they had opportunities to elect young leaders too. And both of them didn't. They elected old leaders. The Ministry of Culture, Youth and Sport, Mr. Speaker, has been restored to its rightful space at the level of the cabinet, and it has been transformed in the last 4 years. And I want to start off particularly with culture this time, because in One of the examination of the estimates that we had here in 2023. I had the privilege of being interrogated by some of the honorable members, and I want to share to this honorable house, as I announced then that the Institute of Creative Arts, which was started and conceptualized under Minister Frank, under the People's Progressive Party, I announced then that it would be registered with the National Accreditation Council. And I want to read what the Honorable Member, Ms. Natasha Singh Lewis, when I made the commitment that it would be registered with the National Accreditation Council. Robson, give me a minute. Here is what Ms. Natasha Singh Lewis said in the Parliament, coming from the Hansard. She said, the Institute of Creative Arts has to first be registered with the National Accreditation Council. That is a pre-qualification for accreditation. The National Accreditation Council does not do institutional accreditations. It does program accreditations at this moment. The ICA could not have been registered all this time because there is no legislation in place that established the ICA. So, Ms. Natasha Singh Lewis advised as she sat in the Green office in the same building at the Ministry of Culture, Youth and Sport, which I have to say during that time there was an unhealthy obsession with the colors green and yellow. Everything was being painted green and yellow. Some people even painting their house green and yellow. We were able to get, and I told this house that, and advised that we didn't need a legislation to get the Institute registered. I'm happy to bring to this house that we are officially registered with the National Accreditation Council, the Institute of Creative Arts. The APNU came in, had a brilliant concept, which is a tertiary level creative arts academy for persons who are involved in dance and drama and creative writing and music, etc. And in those 5 years, they did nothing. They did nothing to advance the registration of the Institute. So I'm extremely pleased, Mr. Speaker, to announce to this Parliament that we achieved what the Honourable Member said that we could not do. And I'm also would like to say that I've learned over time that many persons who say that they can't and many persons who say that they can are oftentimes both correct. Ms. Natasha Singh Lewis, who was advising the department back then, Honorable Member, this is a situation of where they did not know and they did not know that they did not know. The ministry participated in and held over 60 events last year, and there are only 52 weeks in a year. 26 were held in other countries. We held the Literary Arts Festival, the Dancehall Monarch, which was new, and it's now the most popular entry in now the Mashramani entries for song competitions. We held our independence in Region 10. We had, after losing one of our cultural icons, Dave Martin, we held a fitting tribute for him last year. We invested in training for songwriters and stagecraft performance and music production, the business of music, audio engineering, music trending and as a result, I want to say that now our artists, our performers, our musicians, their music is now trending in the Caribbean. And our performers are making good money both in Guyana now and going overseas. They're being booked overseas and making money. And after APNU had killed the Guyana Prize for Literature, something that was so important for the literary arts. We introduced a Right to Stage program, WRIT, Right to Stage Theatre Art Support Program. And this has been an immense success where we have already staged 6 theatre plays. We held and conducted workshops with Hollywood actors last year, Silvio Simac and Jacob Scipio. And this year we will be focusing on our film treaty with the UK. We completed the Cultural and Creative Industries online platform, which will be launched this year. Castellani House held 15 art exhibitions. Our youth culture camps, which was introduced by us. We trained 400 young people. 400 young people last night, and it's been over 1,000 since 2022 when it was introduced. And we completed the review and the draft of the legislation for the National Trust, which will be tabled this year. First time it was ever done. We did 37 meetings of hard work to get that accomplished. What did they do? Nothing. I want to turn to sport, Honorable Speaker. The Honorable Speaker.
Before you turn to sport, I'll have to give you an extension.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to ask that the honourable member be given 5 minutes to continue.
Thank you, Honorable Minister Teixeira. Honorable Minister Ramson, you may continue.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. In 2023, our athletes secured 167 medals in international and regional levels. And that then, in 2023, that then was the highest that we have ever accomplished in our country's history. I am happy to announce in 2024, Guyana secured 534 medals in international and regional championships. 300%. In 2023, Guyana we participated in 51 international and regional tournaments, spending millions of dollars, 51 international and regional tournaments. In 2024, that then was the highest. In 2023. In 2024, it was 102. 102, spending millions and millions of dollars every single time our athletes leave these shores. In 2023, Guyana held 15 international sporting events. 15. In 2024, it was 29, an increase of 93%, bringing millions and millions of US dollars into our economy. We introduced and held, we held, some of them included, the CPL, the Cricket World Cup. The Cricket World Cup successfully held and hosted right here in Guyana. We introduced for the first time the Global Super League that many of our neighbors are excited about but are also looking at us with an envious eye. We also had CONCACAF qualifiers, the Caribbean Cycling Championships, which hasn't been held since 2001. Since 2001, Minister Gale would have been the minister during that time. The Caribbean bodybuilding, it was held for the first time since 2004, when Minister Frank was minister then. Casa, squash, motor racing. Countries that refused or were unable to host we worked with those international organizations and local sports associations who have all supported this budget. We've worked with them to make these tournaments a success and make it beneficial to the country. And it shows the strong relationship and the benefit that we have with the Sports Commission and also the sports associations. And I also want to say it also shows the benefit of the National Sports Academy, which we introduced for the first time in 2022. In 2022. And last year we had international coaches and athletes come to participate in our elite training program. Our athletes have now signed with major shoe deal companies for contracts for their promotion and are now being scouted. Some have already secured scholarships in the United States and other places in the world because of their athletic performance. And some of them are being scouted right now as we speak, touring many of the universities so that they can make their decision about which university to attend. And I also want to announce this year that we will be having a gold medal Olympic and world champion who will be doing one of our elite training programs with our athletes in this country. In the last 4 years, the governance of sports associations saw major changes in their leadership. And this is something that I'm extremely proud about, because this is for years we've been asking for the governance to improve, and the change of leadership has caused that. Mr. Speaker, I want to say this about our community grounds, because our members are speaking about community grounds. That when the APNU-AFC came to government, they cut expenditure on community grounds. Cut community expenditure on community grounds by 66%. In the 2011 to 2015 period, we used to spend $300 million a year on community grounds. And they want to come and profess that they love community grounds. It is for that reason that you've had the decrepitude in community grounds that we've had to make this investment now. We've completed and invested in the last 4 years 320 community grounds. And if you include the hinterland, the 248 villages, it is 550, over 550 community grounds that we've invested in. And this is something that I put my personal attention in, because I know how important it is to young people. Because if they don't have a safe space to play in and to pursue their talents, we will lose them forever. They get involved in drugs and gangs and stealing, and then they end up either in jail or 6 feet below. And that's one of the reasons that I've put my personal attention in. Mr. Speaker, I've walked those grounds. I've done over 1,000 consultations with communities, more than the whole of the APNU-AFC combined when they are in government and in opposition. I've done over 1,000. And I've walked through swamps and vegetations big like forests, and ended up with bites and went through snake-infested fields. And I did all of that just so that I can highlight the importance. And now we are investing over $2 billion in community grounds and lighting those. And I've seen how those communities have changed. Mr. Speaker, it has been... He was the snake. Mr. Speaker, it has been a marked, distinct transformation that has happened in the Ministry of Culture, Youth and Sport. And I would like to take the opportunity to thank His Excellency President Ali and the People's Progressive Party government, the Vice President Jagdeo, all of my members of the cabinet, and also the members of the Ministry of Finance. And finally, I leave the word of saying thank you for all of the support that we that I have personally have had, we have had from the members of the Ministry of Culture, Youth and Sport. The People's Progressive Party will win the next election. We will have a larger majority here in Parliament, and the APNU AFC will be resigned to opposition for the next 30 years, and you can mark my word on that. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.